Kia ora, good morning. So, as you know, as I've been saying, I'm scouting locations to make shows and stuff, and I'm currently watching a video about the hauntings of the Titanic. Now, obviously, the Titanic is a point in history that is personal to me because I had family on the Titanic. My father's auntie, my great aunt, was on the Titanic with her family when it went down, and she survived, and she was only 12 years old, and they ended up moving to New York and becoming like jewelers or something like that. But yeah, I had family on the Titanic, and obviously being Irish. So I want to go to Ireland. I've never been to Ireland. It's the only part of the British Isles I've never visited. So before I find a country to call home, as I keep saying, I want to do a tour of Great Britain to make shows because there's just too many places that need visiting and investigating for me not to go, because I know once I leave the United Kingdom, I'm probably never coming back, not to live anyway. That's the plan. The Lord might have different plans, but that's the plan right now. So I want to see it all and get it all in before I go. There's just, Great Britain is steeped in so much history. And as a time jumper, it's like an addiction for me. I can't get enough. I just want to get out and see it all and experience it all, because when you have access to time the way I do, I can't put into words how invigorating and exciting it is to experience the kind of physics that lets you walk amongst the giants of history. And in some cases, literally, because when we were driving through Glencoe and going past Etive Moor and that, I actually saw dinosaurs. So, but I didn't know at the time that there were dinosaurs that roamed that area. I described everything to a T, and then when we found out the truth, it was like, oh my God. But back in those days, I didn't realise what it was I was doing. I thought I was being quote unquote psychic. I didn't know anything back then. I hadn't developed a science. I didn't know what I was. I didn't know any of it. It was before even my children were born. So that's how far back that goes. I'm embarrassed that I even tried to have a radio show in Chicago with knowing as little as I did. And I can totally see why I couldn't have the radio show. Like, I only had it for 2.5 months, and then I had to walk away. I didn't know anything back then like I know now. I can help people so much more now since having to walk away from my radio show than I ever could have done if my radio show was still going now. Because I needed that time to develop my science and work on myself and see my true path. I had already planted the seeds to make my shows and stuff with my students all the way back then, back in like 2016, 17, but I had a lot to learn, and I still had to resolve my relationship with God, and I still had to develop quantum magnetics and all of that, none of which I'd done, but there was evidence that the seeds had been planted long before then, with just the experiences I had with my ex-husband on our honeymoon and driving back and forth to Scotland before we had kids, because he's Scottish and he was born in Edinburgh, so I know Scotland well. We lived there, my babies were born there, and obviously when you're a victim of domestic abuse and you're with a man who's so controlling, and I can't drive, my adventures and my experimentation with my science and that was all limited to where he was going to take me, what he was going to allow me to do, because my career and every opportunity I had was sabotaged by him, not wanting me to be famous before him. He knew that I was heading down a path where the world was going to know my name, and he couldn't bear the thought of me being famous before him, because his goal on his bucket list, he wanted to be known as a famous artist. And he didn't couldn't stand the fact that I was going to get fame before him. It was happening too fast. I was getting too many offers thrown at me, and he hit them away with a tennis bat, every single one of them. And then, of course, when I was about to step out and move out on my own and take the boys and do all of this stuff, because I was going to sue the Air Force and Army in America for what they'd allowed Rocio Ray Nunes and that to do. I was going to take the money and go, and he knew that. But the thing was, back then I didn't know how far all of that went, that it went back to British government and American government and, secret services and police and NHS and all of that. So all the way back then, I knew nothing. I wasn't ready for what I'm being prepared to step into now. Now that I'm ready, my body is, I'm happy with how my body looks. I'm still trying to get used to the idea of, having my face on camera, and that I've been trying to desensitize myself, because obviously I used to have agoraphobia and body dysmorphia, which I had to, and social anxiety, which I had to cure myself of, which I have. I still have social anxiety, but only because I'm shy. I'm not comfortable talking to people I don't know. I get very nervous, because I prefer my peace and I prefer my quiet. I need to be a hermit in order to be able to do the work that I do. I couldn't have an active social life, an active, busy social life, if I want to achieve any of what I want to do in the field of science and quantum magnetics and, you know, um, empire building. I have no time for parties and drinking and going out on dates with multiple men and stuff like that. I'm happy to sit in my little bubble, doing my work and creating my magic and alchemizing everything that I can do, to build my empire, to write and create schoolwork basically for the children at the foundation. And if I'm meant to fall in love and be with someone, I've been told they're literally coming to my door, that he's going to be dropped in my lap. So I'm just going to keep my head down and do my do and concentrate on that. So I've had to work on myself. I had to discover who I was. I had to discover God again. I had to heal a lot of things, and patch myself up and use some duct tape to, hold me together long enough, for me to have the confidence and the wherefore and the knowledge, and the mastery of what I have become and created now in order to make these real shows. Obviously, me doing my National Trust and that with my ex, it was me testing the line, testing to see whether what I had discovered in physics was real or not. Was there a difference between the paranormal and the supernatural? Was this a psychic thing, or was I correct in the fact that there is a vast difference between the psychic sciences and the supernatural sciences, and that psychic is the science, not the ability? I'm one of these people, I won't stick my name to something, and I'm not going to invest my time, money, or energy into anything going into the future, that I'm not proud to stamp my name on. And quantum magnetics and the ascension sciences, and being an occult scientist, I'm 100% now ready to stamp my name on. I'm ready for my name to be in history as the woman who developed quantum magnetics and the ascension sciences, and to be known as a physicist and rocket scientist and occult scientist and all of that. I'm ready now, because I'm fully prepared, trained, and capable to stand up now and argue my point across with anyone, whether it be a psychologist, a psychiatrist, a politician, a member of the royal family, a rocket scientist, a physicist. I'm quite happy now to stand and argue my point and argue my case, even in a court of law, to defend my science and what I am and what I know as an Indigenous woman, as an Egyptian high priestess, as a physicist, even though I'm untrained, what you would call a basement physicist, basement scientist. But if that's the case, then Michael Faraday is one too. So yeah, I'm ready now to to stamp my name and have my face attached to the work that I'm doing. Because I want to, while I'm scouting locations to open my stores, the Alchemist Cavern, while I'm looking for a country to call home where I can put down roots and build my flagship foundation and all of that. In the meantime, and in conjunction with, I want to get out into the UK and the world with my boys and, members of my family like my nephew and that in Australia, and make my shows. I'm hoping I can even get my sister on board when we do a tour of New Zealand. She might not want to be on camera, but I think, my sisters were the ones that taught me all about the craft in that as a kid. From the Celtic Pictish side of what we can do, they're the ones that taught me that. And then my mum taught me the indigenous stuff, which is all now my products and everything that I know, which is why I, am defending the witches and witchcraft and the real ones, not the white witch, green witch, earth witch, black witch, bleh, that you see nowadays. It's all bollocks. The ancestral ones, the ones where it goes back to the Celts and the Picts and the Germans and the Scandinavians and the French and all that. The real witchcraft, not the romanticised bollocks you see today. So, and that also means having to debunk a lot of things that are very popular, that draw in a lot of tourists, that get a lot of attention on social media and on YouTube. But I do it because I'm here to teach people a lesson in using logic, doubt, reason, and common sense and compromise when it comes to dealing with the paranormal and the supernatural, because the paranormal is all psychological. The paranormal is all in your head, and the supernatural is all conscious. So the paranormal is subconscious, the supernatural is conscious. The paranormal is in your head, the supernatural is in your faith, it's in your heart. Okay? So I've already debunked, that boy in was it Jamaica? Or I can't remember. I'll put a link in the description box below. The one who faked being attacked by poltergeists. I debunk things. I've got a lot of things that I've debunked on Instagram as well, because people are lying, and people lie because it brings tourists in, it makes them money, it gets them attention, it can give them endorsement deals, they can get donations out of it, and it's wrong. As a Egyptian high priestess, it is my job to prepare the living for the afterlife, so that they can, when they have their day of judgment, Ma'at and Amit can give them clear passage to the afterlife, or if you don't believe in any of that, basically when you get to the pearly gates, St. Peter will let you in. St. Peter himself ended up being a traitor of Jesus, and then he became a saint, and so it's sinners can become saints. Even with as innocent and pure as what St. Joan of Arc was, who was the one who actually came to me in the dream, who encouraged me to open my stores, the Alchemist Cavern and that, in Salem, and like Transylvania and all of that. Like, she was the one that came to me and said, we're going to be bringing your protector, your husband, to you. Like, you don't need to do anything, he's coming to you. And then you've got to build these stores, and you've got to help people and all of that. So, and that I was to defend the name and the honour, the names and the honours of all the people and children and animals who have been killed in the name of the occult, sacrifices, witchcraft, killed in the name of the church, being accused of being heretics and witches and all of that. My stores, when they go up, will be restoring their name. It will be restoring their valour, because I know the truth about what witches really were, and they do not deserve the reputation that the churches gave them. And so everything that I stand for and everything I am about as a scientist and a woman of God is all to point my fingers, and I'm unafraid to do it now, at the churches that I grew up being forced to worship in, that I knew were hurting people and not helping them in the name of God. And the fact that I have God on my side, the fact that I have these supernatural powers now, the fact that I have more, I outrank the Pope. If God was to choose between the Pope and me, I know for a fact he would choose me. And he's proven that time and time again, especially with what happened with the Pope on Christmas Eve. He died not long after he opened those gates, and now he's taking Donald Trump and Elon Musk and that down with them, because they are nothing more than devil worshippers glorified as, holy men and women, and 90% of them are just agents of the devil. They're a good priest. They're wonderful nuns. Sister Anne, in New Zealand, when I first got married to my first husband, and I started seeing what I call the cleansing now, and I thought it was the end of the world and all of that. I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified, and I didn't know what to do. And even then, when I didn't believe in God, and I just lost my sister and everything like that, I went to a nun, and she gave me the most incredible talk. And then, of course, after I had my experience, after my dad died, where I had a dream where the man called Simon the Essene came to me and asked me why I had forgotten my father, I went to a nun then to get her to explain, because I didn't know who Simon the Essene was. And she explained it all to me. And then, of course, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. I met my teacher, Pauline Wardell Braddon, and she put me on the path to the rest of it. And she knew I was the chosen one. She knew who I was. She told me who I was. She said I would be her last student. And she was a hard teacher. She put me through the ringer, but without her, I wouldn't even be a scientist. I didn't know where I was headed, but she did. And now I get to bring all of it to the world. I got to gather it all, pick the best of all the fruits and seeds that I had been sowing. I get to pick all the best of my life to turn it into these shows and podcasts and that. So this thing with the Titanic, scouting locations and that, I want to bring you the best of everything I have to offer, so that you can learn the truth and heal from the lies of the past, heal from the discrepancies, and use logic, doubt, reason, common sense, and compromise, to learn the truth. Because when you step out of the realms of the paranormal, which is unhealthy, and it perpetuates myths and lies and dishonesty and fear that shouldn't be there. When you get to step out of that and into the truth of what the supernatural actually is, it's so much better. It's mind blowing. It's like living in a fantasy world of truth and science and faith and power that the paranormal world can't give you. The paranormal world keeps you down. It keeps you in the Schumann resonance. Don't let people talk you into thinking that the Schumann resonance and dealing with it is a good thing, because it's not. The Schumann resonance is being manipulated by things like the Black Knight satellite, by the satellite dishes, by broadband, by Wi-Fi. It's whatever they put across, like TVs, radios, internet, that sort of thing. It is all to control what you think, how you think, and what you are to believe in, which is why they let these people believe what I'm about to debunk on this podcast, because it keeps you down. They don't want you learning the truth. Like the Aramaic scrolls, what the Catholic Church did with the Aramaic scrolls and that, is talking about people like me. And the missing books of Moses and all that. It's all talking about me and people like me, and how you get my kind of gifts and abilities, to use things like what I call quantum magnetics, to manifest your own reality. I do it through language and through writing. What I see in my head and I speak out loud and write down comes to pass. I have that kind of power, but I've earned it because I did the work and I became the master. And now I'm currently using that to protect my king and Russia and the children. And I will. It's already happening. So I'm not. I'm being cruel to be kind. Like it's an iron fist in a velvet glove. Um, the photo on the thumbnail, and I'll put a link to the video. And this has got nothing to do with the channel or the people who run the channel. It's got nothing to do with them whatsoever, because 99.9% of the world who believes in the paranormal will absolutely be supportive of her, them, and their channel and what they're presenting, because they believe it to be true. And so this has got nothing to do with them whatsoever, and just everything to do with what has been believed about the photo that I've put up in the thumbnail. They are believing that the image in the photo is the spirit of the captain from the ship of the Titanic, because the pub where they're at has memorabilia from the Titanic. They believe that he attached himself to stuff from the Titanic and he's seen taken in this photo. Not one person has looked at the photo and said, but there's a window to the left, there's a woman wearing yellow on the right, and the reflection of the window is on the back of the man sitting at the table, where you can clearly, obviously see the woman wearing yellow has reflected in the window and back onto the man's back. And they've taken the photo at the time where the light has reflected off her jacket, his back, and the window, and they've perceived it to be a paranormal image, when it's just light reflection. It's refracted light being caught by the camera. And now everybody believes it doesn't even look like a human form in any way. It looks like light refraction, actually, because it's about the light, the sun coming through the windows bounced off her jacket, off the man's back, and back out to the window like a prism of yellow light. And they've taken the photo thinking that it's and saying, oh my god, it's a ghost, and it's not. The other thing is, when they talk about they built a replica of the stairway of the Titanic, and they were saying they saw a man in a top hat and blah blah blah, and spoke with a posh accent, yada yada. The dead don't attach themselves to inanimate objects. The energy of their death can, like for example, if someone was murdered in a chair and then people sit in that chair years later and they feel the dread and the fear, and they'll get chest pains if they were shot in the chest and that sort of thing. But that's stone tape, that's the chair, that's the wood that's remembered it, not the person who died in the chair. The wood has soaked up the fear and the atmosphere and the energy of what happened before the person was murdered in the chair. But like with the Stockbridge bypass one that I was talking about, how people were saying they saw the hooded monk ghost thing standing on a bridge that hadn't even been built at the time that the monastery was down the road. The dead won't see things in the future that weren't there at the time they were living. It doesn't work like that. Time doesn't work like that. That's how you know that incident with the bypass was a man-made thing, because any monk from the monastery down the road that was alive at that time, they wouldn't have seen a bridge, they wouldn't have seen a bypass, none of that would have even been there. So it's not possible that they would have then walked themselves along a bridge that didn't exist at the time that they were living, because that's not how time works. Time bends and time slips don't work like that. So in the case where they're talking about the man standing on the replica of the stairway of the Titanic, and them saying that, you know, he was there because it was reminding him of, you know, before the ship set sail and blah, blah, blah. It's not possible. It's all made up in people's heads. People are supposing and imagining, and supposition when it comes to the paranormal is very, very dangerous. Oh, well, it's probably this. Oh, I bet you it's that. They're all guesses, and it's supposing. And when it comes to the paranormal and the supernatural, you can only deal with fact. Logic, doubt, reason, common sense, and compromise is fact. Oh, it's probably. That's not fact. And it's that kind of thing that feeds into the lie and feeds into the fear. Now, what it could have been was, if you look at the location of where the stairwell was, it could very well have been, I don't know how old the stairway is. I don't know when it was built. It could be anything to do with where they got the wood from, the actual location of the building itself, the person they saw, if it's true. If it's true, would have more to do with either the location itself and what was there before, or the wood, or the materials that they used could have triggered some sort of time bend, time slip thing, because one of them reckons that someone reached out and tried to talk to them, and if that's the case, that's a time slip. But if they were just standing there, then it's a time bend. You know, it's the difference between a ghost and a haunting. Hauntings are time slips because they know you're there, but ghosts generally don't. That's a time bend. It's like stone tape theory. It's just recordings being played back. When the production of energy that comes off nebulas tighten, you'll get ghosts. But when they relax and start pumping out, you know, dust particles and that from things of the past, it will fluctuate the energy frequency being sent out across the universe, and then you'll get hauntings, time slips, because it bends and stretches time, because the nebulas make evolution, or the expansion of the universe that makes all the energy and the forces that are pushing evolution forward, it makes it wobble, and then you'll get your hauntings. But then when it's a ghost, the frequency coming off the nebulas tighten and like snap tight, like if you're pulling a rubber band, you know, going from loose to tight, then you'll get ghost occurrences. Because then what it does, it's like it presses play in the stones and the organic materials of the area that you're around, and it's like it's pressing play on a video recorder. But with time slips, when the nebula sends the frequencies out that wobble, you know, if you look at, you know, when you turn the volume up on a stereo and that, and you see all the lights going up and down and they fluctuate, and that will trigger hauntings. And what that is as it's fluctuating, they pass through each other. Like two cars driving on a highway, and one passes through the other, but one car's from 1937 and one car's from 2025, but you will both be perfectly aware of the fact that one car has just driven through the other. You will be able to see each other, you will be able to communicate for brief instances. You will absolutely be taking on that experience thinking, what the hell was that? I just saw aliens. I just, you know, the people from, you know, the car from back in the day will see the cars travelling past them in the future thinking, they must have been aliens, what the hell was that, sort of thing. Whereas the people in the 2025 car will be passing through the car from yonder and think, we just saw ghosts. We just turned the corner and we just saw ghosts, and like an old Model T Ford car, and you know what I mean. But it's not. We call them ghosts and hauntings, but it's just fluctuations in frequency depending on how the nebula are taking in energy and spitting it back out again, because the nebulas, they take the past, they chew it up, and they spit it back out to encourage the evolving universe to create new life and expand existing life, right? So, or evolve existing life as it expands, I should say. So it's not possible that, was it Asti, I think they said, was it? um, I should have written it down. I skipped past all the insignificant information to get to the good stuff. I skipped to the good stuff, which I shouldn't. But this will be way more professional once I've got the money to actually get out there and I can edit things and, have my co-host and all of that. But for now, just bear with me. Okay, so yeah, so it's not possible, and I don't mean to burst people's bubbles, but the only way you're going to learn the truth is if you admit the truth and admit to the fact that a lot of this stuff is either staged or misunderstood or misrepresented by people who have a lot more to gain from the populace, the sheeple, believing the fallacies and the lies and the myths rather than knowing the truth, which is why people keep trying to kill me and try to shut me down and shut me up, because I speak the truth. And when the world wakes up and realizes that the paranormal is just feeding you lies and mental illness under the guise of the Schumann resonance and science and stuff like that, and that actually the Schumann resonance can kill you. The Schumann resonance can kill you. It can drive you insane. I don't know if people know that, but I talk all about it on my Instagram. If you scroll further down to like the 2020, 2021-ish area, you'll see that I talk about the Schumann resonance there and how it can actually be fatal. So all these people on social media going, oh my God, have you seen the fluctuations in the Schumann resonance? You see how it's acting and it's gone silent and blah, blah, blah. Don't do that, because it's basically giving people an invisible gun and telling them to play Russian roulette with it. Which is funny, because the person who discovered the Schumann resonance and its how fatally dangerous it is was actually Russian. So yeah, so don't do that. The supernatural, the world I live in, is way cooler than the world everybody else lives in who embraces the paranormal. So I'll put a link in the description box of the video I'm watching, and also the one where I debunk with the boy in the Caribbean, I think it was. And you can educate yourself. Of course, you don't have to believe in anything what I'm saying, but you will live a healthier life and a happier life and a more productive one when you step out of the darkness and into the light of enlightenment. So, yeah. People will not be happy with me, but like I said, it's got nothing to do with the channel. There's probably this photo and that story has probably been recounted through many channels and many Google searches and that sort of thing, so it's not personal to the people making the channel. I'm just teaching you the truth, because learning is knowledge, knowledge is wisdom, wisdom is power. Okay, so I'm being cruel to be kind, because when I get out there and I go to these places that I'm watching on these shows and I explain everything to you and can do the experiments and use logic, doubt, reason, common sense and compromise in order to show it to you, it's taking you out of the paranormal and into the supernatural, which is way cooler. Way cooler. For the people that leave the old world and step into the new one, they won't be able to believe what it is they're experiencing, because it opens a whole new door to things that are beyond the realms of possibility, but absolutely cannot be denied, because it is all dealing in fact, and science is fact. Well, my science is. The science of the Schumann resonances bollocks. AI is bollocks. The AI is gonna, for the countries that embrace AI, they're fast tracking themselves to extinction. But that's the point, eh? The countries that embrace the AI, it's with the purposes of making mankind extinct and leaving it all for the wealthy to enjoy, so that they don't have to have women to have babies, and they don't need to have people driving their cars, and they don't need to have servants and slaves and all of that. They'll just have robots. But then, you know, what happens when they die? Anyway, yeah. When you look at the photo after I've explained everything, you can't deny it. Like, it's undeniable proof that I'm telling the truth. And it's not to embarrass the couple, it's not to belittle anyone or make fun of anyone. I'm here to teach the truth, so that you can empower yourself and arm yourself with everything you need, going into the new world. Because when the new world opens up and the old world dies out, you need to be prepared for the healing. Because when the truth comes out about everything that's been going on for the last few thousand years with politicians and religion and celebrity and all of that, as I was told, it was going to take about 20 years for mankind to recover from the shock of the truth of everything that they have been lied to about for centuries. And the paranormal is one of them, because obviously when you're talking about the paranormal side of the occult and not the supernatural side of the occult, although like the Illuminati think they're supernatural but they're not, it's paranormal, because it's based on mental illness and their own insanity, thinking that they're aliens, and that by killing animals and children and virgins and that they're, they get supernatural powers. It's not. They were all set up by God and Satan for the right time to catch them all, so that when it was time for the old world to die and the new world to be born, the world would be ready to see the back of them, because then they know the truth, like, how the truth is coming out about Donald Trump and that. But at the same time, while the truth is coming out about people like Donald Trump and Zelensky and van der Leyen and Starmer and all of that, he's also using that exact same truth and that exact same science of mine, to defend the names and the reputations of, like, my king, the royal family, the British royal family, and Vladimir Putin and that as well. So where there is truth, there is light, and I shine a light on the things that need to be illuminated, including who's innocent and who's not, who God is defending and who God is tearing down, tearing apart. And it's happening now. You can see it now. Bill Gates is going down, Schwab's going down, like, they're all starting to go down. All the bad ones are starting to fall quite fast. So where he's tearing them down, he's also raising the king up to protect the king, because it turns out that him and his family have been used as basically human sacrifices since World War II. That's how far back I've been able to go back from my investigation anyway. So, but I've presented it all to the king. It's up to him to decide what to do next. But as for me, I'm just making my shows, keeping my head down, keeping myself busy, putting my stuff out there until it's time for me to find a co-host and a car and get my boys and get my money and get out of here and make my shows and do it for realsy, with editing and sound and, proper locations and social media supporting the shows. And because I'm going to shut all my social media down and start again just promoting the work and the shows, and keeping my personal life and everything I went through out of it. I'm walking away from all of it, leaving it all behind. I don't want nothing to do with my ex-husband or ex-husbands, and what I was put through by the government and all of that. So I get to start new once I meet my co-host and I get my money and all of that. Then I can go, and then I will go to these locations that I'm scouting now, like obviously the dockyards and all of that, because like I said, I have a personal connection to the Titanic. I don't know the name of my auntie. I wish I'd asked my dad, but I'll be able to find out. They'll have the logbooks and record books in there. I didn't even think to look when I went to the museum in Liverpool. But I would like to, because I'd like to find out more about my Callahan side of the family, and do shows while I'm there. So yeah, so I'll put links in the description box below. Don't shoot the messenger, but it's better to be hurt by the truth than devastated by a lie. Remember that. The truth heals. I'll speak to you later. Ka kite anō. Mwah.